I've had various times when people have stated as an absolute fact, something which I absolutely know not to be true.
Hello, Sid.
Hiya.
Hello. So, we're just briefly going to talk about your book. I've read the first version in the Court of King Crimson. I've read the revised version. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the book. I mean, and I was on your case for ages to make the new version. The new version is brilliant. Brings the story of the band up to date. What made you want to write a book about Crimson in the first place?
The quick version of that was I'd read the Eric Tam book that came out in the 90s, I guess, and I thought it was great, and it was just so wonderful being able to read, to kind of have in one small piece in your hand all this information about King Crimson. I can't remember, but I think this is all pre-internet, or at least when the internet was, hard to access, certainly for me. And reading Eric Tam's book was a wonderful experience. But the one thing that was missing for me was, although it gave like a very good overview of Crimson and the world, I suppose I just wanted to hear. I still had lots of unanswered questions, and I kind of missed hearing the different voices from the band and its members. So I suppose that was why I decided that I wanted to do it. And I remember there was this would have been for King Crimson's 30th anniversary. There was an event in London where Robert was speaking at a bookshop in London. And, I can't remember the name of the shop. It's on Tottenham Court, or used to be on Tottenham Court.
Yeah, I know the one.
It's a big place. Anyway, Barnes and not Barnes and Noble.
One of those, yeah.
Something like that. Borders.
Yeah.
Borders, I think it was Borders. So there was a small group of people gathered around. It wasn't that big an event, and there was Robert there, and it was the as I say, the launch of the 30th anniversary. And I'd spoken to Robert a couple of times before that event, so we knew each other from a couple of different things. And I said to him, I'd like to write. I'm going to write a book about Crimson, And he sort of rolled his eyes metaphorically and sort of said, no one's going to read it, no one's going to want to publish it, and there's really no interest in it, And I sort of said, well, I appreciate that, but it's kind of something I feel like I need to do. And so he said, well, good luck. Obviously, I don't want anything to do with it, but go knock yourself out. And actually, he was Robert was incredibly helpful. I subsequently, Helter Skelter, who are no longer there, they published the book originally, and we had a launch event in London to which several in the shop to which several Crims came from the past came along and did autographs and things, and it was incredibly successful. An event. I remember the shop owner, who's sadly no longer with us now, a guy called Sean Bodie. He said to me, I was there like in the early afternoon, and he said to me, we need to get some music. We haven't got any King Crimson music. I said, all right, okay, have you got any? I said, no, not at all. So I went round to Borders, who had a music section, and I bought a copy of, I think the only King Crimson album I could find, which I think was Code, and this was like about 10 minutes before the event was due to start. And I was like desperately worried that like nobody would turn up, you know.
Really?
Well, yeah, because I had no expectations, you know. Some bloke that nobody's ever heard of writes a book about King Crimson, and there's a London launch event. You know, I expected like, you know, a couple of people to turn up, but anyway, I came out of the book shop, turned around the corner, and the queue to get into this event, like it stretched all the way to the back of the road, you know. And like from nothing, like a few minutes ago, I'd gone out, I'd left the shop, and there was like nobody there. So it went off incredibly well, and the book did very well. Helter Skelter were not always very well. Let's just say I got some money out of it, which was very welcome. But you know, the book was reprinted a few times, and I sort of never got anything out of that. But and then I kept getting asked questions about, you know, redoing it. You know.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, probably about at least twice a week. You know, in the intervening years. And so when it came around for I had done a couple of different versions of trying to do it, but for a whole variety of reasons, which are too dull to go into, it never got done. But when it came around to the 50th anniversary, I just thought, and I was persuaded by Declan Colgan at Panegyric, you know, if you're ever going to do a book about King Crimson, like, you know, the 50th anniversary is the year to do it, you know.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So that's what we did. It came together very, very quickly because over the years I've written so much about it, you know.
The text is quite different between the two, isn't it? So it's not straight. You're not just added bits on. The text it's quite different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not. That's exactly right. It was essentially, I suppose. One way to think about it is an extended remix, but with lots of new material. Because I think the book was published originally in 2001. Well, in that in the interim time, you know, I mean, I'd managed to interview loads more people from the band than first time around. So that's the first difference. And of course, you know, people's relationship with the band had changed as well. You know, I mean, I'm talking about ex-members, you know. Sometimes people just didn't want to know at the time or had very fragmented recollections. But then over the years, with writing liner notes for different releases, you know, you'd be going back to them and you'd be saying, oh, what about this particular thing? And so you'd generate all this material through interviews. And so the extended book or the expanded book was the natural place to put it all, you know. And it's sort of, you know, what was it? I can't remember what the thing was. There was something came up in relatively recent times. And somebody sort of said, oh, why didn't you put that in the book? And I can't remember now what it was, Matt, but I sort of said, well, I didn't know about it when I was doing that part of the book, you know? So, and even when we were doing the thing, you know, like Robert did a 50th anniversary press conference in the April, and I'd finished the book. But in the course of the press conference, Robert said one or two things which he'd never said publicly before. Wow. So it was like, so afterwards, the publisher sort of said, you're going to have to rewrite that section because of new information, you know. So that was kind of, so it went right up to the wire in terms of because they had a publication window with the factory and stuff. So it was kind of all, in the end, there was a bit of scrabbling around. And also, you know, given the opportunity, there's things in it I would rather, I'm thinking now, I shouldn't have done that one. I should have done it in a different way. And I'd like to have done it differently, you know. So given the chance, I would rewrite it.
So is this going to be like the rest of your life, you're going to be continually rewriting this book every 10 years or so?
Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, I mean, the new version's fantastic. And like I say, I think I've read the other one about 10 times. It's something ridiculous. Probably the book I've read, that one, and very few other books I've read that much. And the new version, I think I've read 2 or 3 times as well. And, it's brilliant. So nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, I mean,
it aims to provide people with, is it the definitive account of King Crimson? Probably not. But it's an account. And it aims to give people sort of all the resources in one place. I mean, these days, of course, we do have the internet, but not everything is on the internet. And
also, it's not accurate a lot of the time, is it? The accuracy online is compared to if you're writing a book, you have to show your sources and show how you've done it. If you're writing something on the internet, it could just be complete rubbish, couldn't it? So, a lot, even album release dates and stuff are wrong online and stuff, aren't they? So
yeah.
It's often something where you've got it so it's concrete in paper and it's got the sources and everything's there. It's a completely different experience. But
I think the keeping a track of things, because things come and go so quickly on the internet, and not just in terms of music, but politics. The terrible state that we're in with truth.
Fake news.
And I think that's. I tend not to get involved in any of the discussions that you see online on Facebook groups and things like that, because sometimes you will end up arguing with people who you don't really want to argue with. But I've had various times when people have stated as an absolute fact, something which I absolutely know not to be true. But I don't have that fight, because life's too short.
So just to sort of tie up things for the end of the book bit. Excuse me, Sid. Sorry. Just to tie things up. So in the additional material in the last sort of 20 years of Crimson, did you expect all the things that have happened in the last 20 years to happen? Because I mean, in that era, as being a Crimson fan, the chances of seeing King Crimson play in the UK were very low. I mean, it wasn't happening, was it? It was very rare they'd play in the UK. And then all this amazing touring and the brilliant stuff they've been doing for the last sort of, since 2014, was it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been incredible, hasn't it? So
I don't think I would have various conversations with people back through the years, and I never expected Crimson to reform. Or reform in the way that they did. After 2003 and The Power to Believe, I pretty much thought, well, that's it. That's Crimson done.
Yeah, what a magnificent way to finish as well.
Yeah, and there was one brief moment in 2000, so there was a sort of a reunion of sorts in 2008.
New York show,
and I was working on that tour, but you could sort of tell, reading between the lines, that this wasn't going to go very far. And then there was another thing which I don't think was public at the time, but there was another sort of opportunity which looked like, I can't remember the year now, but it was maybe 2009, 2010, perhaps. There was a discussion about what became the Jack Chick Fripp and Collins album, and that was for a short while. That had the possibility and potential, to be a reformed King Crimson. Again, through a variety of circumstances, it didn't happen. But there was a plan to do it with that lineup as a revived and refocused King Crimson. And it's significant, of course, by the time you get to 2014, that all of the people who were on that album are in the new King Crimson. For me, the biggest mind blower for me was the inclusion of Mel Collins. It wasn't the three drummers.
No. Amazing, yeah.
The three drummers were you know, kind of, oh yeah, but for me it was fuck me, Mel Collins.
Yeah. How did that happen? I mean, you know, he's brilliant, isn't he? Really, like, completely unexpected edge, isn't it?
I always say it's easier to list the albums and tracks that Mel Collins doesn't play on. You know, the guy was an amazing session musician. When it comes to like looking at his whole career, you know. So yeah, I never expected Crimson to return, and I was all right about that, to be honest. You know,
what a career, incredible career. I mean,
somebody who was saying, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if they just got back together one more time? Wouldn't that be great?" I was never in that camp. I was quite happy with the fact that they'd done what they'd done, and I just expected Robert to be doing a bit of guitar craft or soundscapes or something, and I was happy with that.
Yeah, me too.
I thought the work he did with Theo Travis as a duo was great.
Brilliant.
You know, I really enjoyed that. You know, so it's a kind of a bonus. Whether or not we'll, with COVID and everything, whether or not we'll see it return, who knows? But yeah,
and also that they were going to do, to see them do Starless and things, the material they did, which is unbelievable. It was like, I mean, you couldn't have called that at all, could you? It was just,
Yeah. I mean, I saw Crimson in '73. That was the last time I saw. Well, it wasn't the last time I saw Crimson, but when I saw Crimson in '73, Starless hadn't been written at that point or performed at that point, and of course, when they were performing it, they never came to the UK.
No.
So to see Starless performed in 2014 was like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, there's something in my eye. Actually, I'm feeling a bit. Well, there was that, when they brought the red light down and the melody comes back at the end. It's one of my favourite bits in rock music.
Yeah.
It's like, and you can hear where sort of Mogwai and all this post-rock stuff came from.
Yeah.
Godspeed You Black Emperor and all this, this whole raft of cool music. And when that melody comes back at the end, it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
There's certain moments in rock music that are just so utterly brilliant, and that's where seeing them do that, and I've seen them do it a few times. So I think I saw 3 or 4 of the shows.
Yeah,
and every time it got me, and it just blimey, that's pretty special. But also, I love that they were doing the older material, but they were approaching it with such a typically fresh attitude, and then they were doing these interesting sort of improv bits and sort of these interlocking guitar things and all sorts of ideas that from throughout the band's career, but also presented with a sort of fresh slant as well, which I thought was really cool. It wasn't just a let's do the hits job. It was there was all sorts of interesting stuff going on there. So yeah, they were good shows.
I think the thing that struck me at the time from 2014 onwards, a lot of the music that they were playing, had not been played in 40 years. It wasn't like some of the tracks were always part of the repertoire. I think somebody likened it, and I don't mean this in any kind of disrespectful way, but somebody likened it to Yes, with its various iterations onto a, like Starship Trooper, for example, or, Close to the Edge or whatever. They've been in the set list constantly for 40 odd years, and it's always great when they play it and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But with Crimson, that stuff had never been, lots of it had never been played live ever, never mind back in the day,
when I got into Crimson was the Thrack era. That was my Crimson. That was my era of the band. And you just couldn't imagine. It was all about new material. It was all about developing new ways of working. It was all so fresh. And I always thought King Crimson is this band not associated with I always thought they were like Voivod and Sonic Youth and people like that. I always thought I didn't really associate them with this sort of progressive rock movement because I just didn't know about it. That wasn't my thing at all. My thing was Voivod and Sonic Youth and Helmet and bands like that. And I just thought they were this brilliant experimental guitar band. But the idea that they didn't play any of the old stuff then, did they? It was all the. But now they're doing Thrack era, they're doing Discipline era stuff, they're doing all of it. And it's just amazing, man.
The biggest mind blower for me was hearing them do the stuff from the Lizard album.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff, as I said, had never been played live at the time, you know, in 1971 or 72. So to hear it played kind of arguably, this is arguable, I guess, but, you know, arguably better than the album, you know, in terms of just the cumulative impact of it. So yeah, it's been a totally unexpected bonus, having, and you know, there's a body of thought from some fans which say, yeah, but what we need is a new album, and I get that. And you know, there's been new material within the set list, but not a new album. But I don't know. I mean,
just enjoy what we got. You know what I mean? That'll do me. You know what I mean? So we're in bonus land now, aren't we?
Yeah, it's enough that it's there, you know, and you know, yes, maybe it would be good to have a new studio album. I don't know. I'm not sure. But as you know, in post-COVID world, who knows what will happen? Whether or not concerts or whatever, you know.
Right, we'll wrap it up on the book there, Sid. Thank you so much. It's a cracking book, and anyone who's met me knows that I do go on about it quite a bit. So thanks so much, Sid. Okay, I'm going to stop. We're going to hit record. Thanks. Stop now. Thank you so much.
Cheers.